Hello, everybody, and welcome back to What's the Word? Today is Monday, December 28th, 2020, and today the word comes from Hebrews 3, verse 13, which reads, "But continually encourage one another every day as long as it is called today, so that none of you will be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin." And I think that pretty much speaks for itself. On to scoreboard watching and starting with college basketball. Maryland went 1-1 over the past week. Their first game, an 84-71 victory over LaSalle. Junior guard Eric Ayala led the team with 23 points, but they struggled mightily from three, only making 7 of their 28 attempts, which was good for 25%. Their next game, they lost to Purdue 73-70. Maryland trailed from the opening tip through to the final buzzer. Struggles at the free throw line kept the Terps from truly challenging as they shot 47%. Ironically enough, after Purdue's Eric Hunter Jr. missed 2 at the charity stripe, Maryland had a chance to tie the game, but Dante Scott's full court heave with 1.8 seconds remaining was offline. Next up, 6th-ranked Wisconsin hosts Maryland tonight at 7 p.m. Switching over to Georgetown, who lost to Seton Hall 78-67. The Hoyas trailed throughout the game and allowed 2 Seton Hall Pirates to have career days. Senior guard Miles Cale, who dropped 30 points, and junior guard Jared Roden, who added 26 points and 12 rebounds. Georgetown has been playing out of McDonough Arena, which is the basketball arena on campus, but it looks like they will be back at Capital One Arena. Next up for them, Marquette comes to town for a 7:30 matchup on Saturday, January the 2nd. Week 16 in the NFL. The Baltimore Ravens defeated the New York Giants 27-13. The Ravens continued to look like they found their form, and this time against a really good Giants defense. I know I've been saying that they hadn't really been playing great competition. They looked good against Dallas, which they beat. They looked good against the Browns, who don't have a great defense. And they looked good against Jacksonville, who is the worst team in the league. But this time they faced New York, and they looked good as well. Lamar Jackson threw for 183 yards and 2 touchdowns, finding Marquise Hollywood Brown as well as Dez Bryant, who scored his 2nd touchdown in consecutive weeks. Lamar also ran for 80 yards as part of the Ravens' 249-yard day on the ground. Gus Edwards added 85 yards, and J.K. Dobbins put up 77 and a touchdown before exiting the game with a chest injury. Defensively, Baltimore wreaked havoc against the Giants, amassing 6 sacks and 7 tackles for loss. Thanks to the win and help from the Pittsburgh Steelers defeating the Indianapolis Colts, the Ravens now control their fate. A win in Cincinnati against the Bengals this Sunday at 1 p.m. would put Baltimore in the playoffs. Thanks to Baltimore's win over the Giants, all Washington needed was a win to clinch a playoff spot. Unfortunately, they lost to the Carolina Panthers 20-13. Outside of the potential to win the division, it was a drama-filled week as quarterback Dwayne Haskins was fined $40,000 for a second violation of COVID protocols on the season. But Washington still had to rely on him to start due to continued soreness in the calf of Alex Smith. Add in the fact that it was head coach Ron Rivera's first time going against the team that fired him, and you had all the storylines you'd need. To say that Dwayne Haskins struggled would be a major understatement. The quarterback turned the ball over 3 times before halftime with a fumble and 2 interceptions, which in characteristic fashion came on forced throws which he did not need to make. Dwayne Haskins was eventually benched for Taylor Heineke on the second drive of the fourth quarter, but it came too late. When asked why it took so long to make the change, Ron Rivera said he thought Haskins would show improvement in the second half of the game like he did over the previous 2 weeks. So I can't really blame him for that. Like I said last week, Dwayne looked good in the fourth quarter, and likewise taking over for Alex Smith against the 49ers. As for Taylor Heineke, he looks like he has some pretty good touch. He played well in his limited time of about 8 minutes, completing 12 passes on 18 attempts for 137 yards and a touchdown. He could have had at least one more to Logan Thomas, but his end zone catch was nullified due to a holding penalty on Wes Schweitzer. To make matters worse for Dwayne Haskins, he received the news today that he would be released from the team. Outside of everything else that happened, I think the final straw was the fact that he left from the locker room, declining his media availability, which is required from all starting quarterbacks unless they were injured. So I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And next up for Washington, they will face the Eagles in Philadelphia in prime time on Sunday Night Football with a chance to win the division. A loss, unfortunately, means that the winner of the Giants and Cowboys game claims the NFC East. The Washington Wizards have had a cold start to the NBA season, going 0-3. Thanks to an opening defeat at the hands of the Philadelphia 76ers and back-to-back losses to the Orlando Magic. New addition Russell Westbrook has had back-to-back triple-doubles, but he missed yesterday's game due to scheduled rest. And my analysis is that he's been largely inefficient. He's shooting 36% from the floor, 0 for 6 from 3, 66% from the free throw line, and has 11 turnovers. In the opening game, he had a really bad defensive play that left Ben Simmons on the baseline to put the 76ers up by 4 with about 30 seconds remaining. And in the second game, he pretty much owned up for it, saying that he was the reason that the team lost. Other than that, I think that he just needs some time to get loose. He only played in one preseason game thanks to Scott Brooks not wanting any injuries to come out of training camp. But obviously that has backfired to start the season. As for Bradley Beal, he's had games of 31, 39, and 29 points respectively. Yesterday, he missed all 7 of his three-point attempts, so his three-point percentage fell to 25%. And he also has 11 turnovers, but through 3 games instead of 2. My thoughts on Brad: he's definitely added some more layers to his game, but right now he's looking too much like an ISO player, and he isn't getting his teammates involved early. He's averaging 4 or 5 assists, but I think he could be doing much better if he just passed the ball up a little bit more. Brad's the type of scorer where he can get going at any moment, but he's looking a little selfish right now. Outside of that, I won't blame the players really. I think the main issue right now is Scott Brooks and his coaching. His rotations have been horrible. In the second game, the game against Orlando, Raul Neto was perfect from the floor, had 9 points in about 8 minutes, but he didn't play for the rest of the second half. And then yesterday, he had a career-high 22 points, but again, Scott Brooks' rotations have been pretty bad. Denny Avdia was in foul trouble in the second game, so we've had to go with some pretty ugly rotations. Jerome Robinson played 20 minutes in the second game and didn't score a single point. And then Mo Wagner hasn't seen the floor. Thomas Bryant has been in foul trouble and has been pretty much a defensive liability. And Mo Wagner isn't much better defensively, but I'd like to see him get some bump. And Anthony Gill, another three-point shooter that we signed this offseason, hasn't played any minutes. So I think mostly the 0-3 start is on Scott Brooks. So he better watch out because I think he's on the hot seat. Another thing I want to mention about Scott Brooks's rotations, he hasn't been putting his starters in at the right time, and that's led Washington to be outscored in the fourth quarter 121-62. So that definitely has to change if they want to get in the win column. Next up for the Wizards, they will have consecutive home games against the Chicago Bulls tomorrow and Thursday. The Washington Nationals made a trade with the Pittsburgh Pirates on Christmas Eve, acquiring first baseman Josh Bell in exchange for right-handed pitchers Will Crowe and Eddie Yean. Will Crowe was the Nationals' third-ranked prospect, while Yean was their sixth-ranked prospect. But since they have the worst farm system in baseball, those rankings are pretty inconsequential. I wrote an article about this if you guys want to read any further on it, so I will put that in the video description. Last but not least, it was announced today that Washington Capitals goaltender Henrik Lundqvist is set to have open heart surgery, so I wanted to wind out the episode by sending my prayers to him. Thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of What's the Word? God bless.